Hello, Tracy. How are you doing today?
I'm good, thanks.
Thank you so much for coming back. It's been a couple weeks since we last met, so I'm happy to see you again. I'd like to start off the session, if you don't mind, by just checking in with you and seeing how things have been since we last talked.
It's been kind of crazy. I actually have gotten transferred to my new job for my practicum. I'm kind of, I guess, getting my feet wet and learning the ropes of what I'll basically be doing and getting prepared to start my practicum.
Yeah. So I know that when we last met, that was something that you had in the works. So we talked about how you were working on getting your practicum arranged, and you had kind of finally settled on this idea that you wanted to transfer to the different facility in Kirksville and do your practicum through there. But you were kind of worried that you might not get the transfer accomplished in time, if I
Right.
recall, because your boss wasn't sure and he was telling you that you had to have a new person on to fill your spot before you could transfer over. So it sounds like you did get that taken care of because what you have about a month before your practicum starts, right?
Yep, just about exactly a month. Yes.
So that you think that's positive? I assume it's a positive thing.
It is, but it's brought a whole new set of issues with it to an extent. I'm going to say, while I don't want to say the same, it's similar to what I was doing. It's, again, very different all at the same time. I'm going to say I was working with totally mental health before. Now I'm working with substance use and abuse, and I'm quite anxious, nervous, just, yeah, with all of that because I know very little about the substances. I mean, the drugs that these people are using, and you have one drug that may have three different names for it. How it affects you, that kind of stuff. Honestly, I'm just, yeah, very nervous and anxious in the new job, just trying to learn everything. Worried I'm not going to get it all down or know what I'm doing before my practicum starts.
Right, and because even though new experiences, and I know this is a new experience that you're very much looking forward to, even though they can be very good, there is still, some some stress that comes along with, you go from something that you've been doing for a while and you probably knew fairly well to doing something that you have less experience with, and so like having to kind of learn the ropes and get acclimated to a new environment definitely does come with its own kind of stress. So
Right.
I was going to check in with you about how you'd been feeling. You kind of beat me to it almost. You already told me that you have been experiencing some anxiety or feeling anxious and feeling nervous about it. Are there any other feelings that you can identify that you've been experiencing?
Um, uh, Anxious, worried. I prided myself in my other position that I did a good job. I knew what I was doing. I was confident in what I'm doing. So I'm almost feeling like I'm at a loss now. My confidence is gone because I don't know what I'm doing. And that in and of itself is just very stress inducing for me because I want to do a good job. And, I do not feel confident at all in what I'm doing right now, which logically, I know that there's a learning curve no matter what, but at the same time, I expect way too much out of myself, I guess is the long and the short of it. I want to be able to do it and do it well right now, which is completely unrealistic.
Okay. Well, you've given me several good feelings there. And I would like to follow up on some of them here in a little bit, if that's okay with you. But I first want to see if there's anything else that has been going on, anything else that you would like to talk about. Basically, I'm interested in knowing kind of what you would like to include, what you want our main priority to be for the agenda today, and kind of what you want the goals of our session to be.
Um, Yeah, and say just kind of dealing with the stress, the nervousness of all of it, how to do a good job when I'm, not feeling like I do a good job. It's just, you know, I think I struggle the most with not being confident, and because of the nervousness and just not knowing what I'm doing.
Okay. So what I'm hearing you say is maybe addressing your feelings of um, not being confident, and then kind of just dealing with the overall stress and nervousness that you have as a result of being in this new environment.
Right.
Is that adequate, or is that accurate? Sorry.
Yeah. Well, it just seems like the more nervous I get, the less, as the nervousness increases, the confidence decreases. Not that there was a lot there to start with.
Right. Which the whole being more nervous and less confident thing that makes a lot of sense. I would say that that is a natural reaction to being in a new situation. Um, what is there any other goals or any other things that you want to include on the agenda, or are you comfortable with those two topics for right now?
I think those are probably the most pressing right now.
Is there one of the two that you feel is more of a priority,
Mm,
or do you think they go hand in hand?
I think it's more of a hand in hand, because if I were more confident, I would be less nervous.
Right. And again, that makes sense. Like that's understandable, and I think that that's probably natural. So, um, which is good because one of the things that it's good that you've identified those as things that you want to work on because um, when you mentioned that um, some of the feelings that you've been having is a loss of confidence or a lack of confidence, that's one of the things that I was kind of interested um, in following up on because I could assume that that's not necessarily a fun you know thought to be having. That's not necessarily an ideal situation to be in. It's to be somewhere where you're not necessarily as comfortable as what you've kind of gotten used to being like in your work environment. So you've already done a great job of kind of identifying some feelings and how those feelings even interact. Like I feel nervous and I feel less confident, and because I feel less confident, it's why I feel nervous. And so you've already done a good job of kind of even identifying how um, those feelings and those thoughts exist together and how they're affecting each other. And so I just wondered, because one of the things that we've talked about in our past sessions, and one of the big components of CBT and the cognitive behavioral model is how kind of our thoughts and our feelings and our thoughts about our feelings kind of affect our behavior. So I'm interested when you're feeling nervous and you're feeling um, a lack of confidence, at work, how what thoughts do you notice yourself having? Have you been able to kind of pinpoint or identify like kind of what that thought process is when you're experiencing those feelings?
Well, just basically that the people that hired me are going to think that I am not qualified, not good enough for the job. Going to be maybe sorry that they hired me and wishing they would have went with somebody else.
So I'm just jotting down some notes, like as you tell me your thoughts and your feelings, I'm just jotting down some notes. So.
Yeah. I think that, that's part of the worry that goes into it. And what makes me nervous is because, why would they hire somebody that knows nothing about, all these drugs and the substance abuse? It just, doesn't make sense to me sometimes. And I kind of use that to, I guess, beat myself up for lack of a better term.
Right. So what I've heard you say is that you have these feelings of nervousness and you have these feelings of lack of confidence, and so the thoughts that are going through your head, like when you get nervous and when you don't feel confident, is oh my gosh, they're going to think I'm not qualified, like they're going to be unhappy with hiring someone who doesn't know anything about this job. So I guess my next question would be like, how do you feel in response to those thoughts when you think, oh my gosh, they're going to be unhappy with me, I'm not qualified for this position? How does that make you feel?
Well, that nervous, anxious, worried because, if they decide they don't want me or need me or that I don't work well there, then my practicum goes out the window. That and a job, because, getting paid is always a good thing to pay the light bill and the groceries. So, I don't have a plan B.
Excuse me. So basically, what I'm hearing is, so you have naturally, or you've identified these natural thoughts that kind of come along with, or these natural feelings that come along with maybe having a new job or being put in a new environment, such as being nervous, being worried, being kind of unsure of what this is going to look like. And so as you're having these feelings, you're also experiencing some automatic thoughts, which you've identified as, I'm not qualified for this job, they're going to be unhappy with hiring somebody who doesn't know what they're doing. And
Right.
and then you've also identified how those thoughts continue the cycle back around to, now again I'm feeling worried because I'm having these thoughts in relation to being worried and being nervous, and then I'm having these thoughts that make me feel even more worried and make me feel even more nervous. And so can you kind of see how that cycle, how those two things are working together to maintain that cycle that's not being very positive for you right now?
Absolutely.
Right. And so
Getting out of that.
I'm sorry, what was that?
I said I just have trouble getting myself out of it because they're all linked.
Right. You get stuck in a rut, and you get stuck in a pattern of behavior where you have these feelings and you have these thoughts in response to these feelings, and then those thoughts basically kind of reinforce the feelings that you were having in the first place that led to the difficult and not ideal thoughts.
Yes.
Okay. So what, I know we've talked about, like I mentioned before, the cognitive behavioral model in the past. And so there's a big component um, to CBT and to that model, aside from the feelings and the thoughts. Do you remember what the other component of the model is?
Feelings, thoughts, I guess how I'm acting or just what I'm doing.
Yeah, your behaviors. So then we've kind of talked on and we've touched on the thoughts and the feelings that we're exhibiting. And the other part of that, or the other piece of that kind of model, is then how in turn is our feelings and our thoughts affecting our behavior. So what how do you typically, like when you're at work and when you're feeling worried and nervous, less confident, when you're having these thoughts that I'm not qualified and they're going to be unhappy with hiring me, and if this doesn't work out, like I might mess up my practicum, I might lose my job, like how are you able to cope with those thoughts and feelings? Like, have you noticed yourself reacting to those thoughts or feelings, or coping with those thoughts and feelings in any like particular manner?
Um, I just try and not think about, push them away, find something else to do, try and find something that I am good at, and do as much of that as I can, or, whatever. But there's so much of it that's new. It's just overwhelming.
Okay. So maybe you try to find something more positive to focus on
Right.
and kind of avoid those negative thoughts,
Mm-hmm.
right? And so,
Possible.
right, and avoidance of negative thoughts is not necessarily a bad thing. But one of the things that we have worked on before too is instead of necessarily and completely like avoiding a thought process, is what is an alternative way to think about things. And so one of the things I kind of want to circle back around to for a minute is kind of the very thoughts you identified at the beginning of the session. I have this new job. I transferred to this new position. I think you said like you've really, because of the Thanksgiving holiday, you've really just been in it for about a week now. Is that right?
Yeah.
Okay. So you're just getting your feet wet and you have these natural feelings. I'm nervous, I'm anxious, I don't really feel confident because I don't have a whole lot of background or experience with the substance abuse piece of it. And so I would assume, and a question that I would ask is like, is this job your first job that you've had?
The first, no, I mean, I worked in CPRC before that.
Okay, right. You mentioned that you worked in CPRC before that. You did the mental health side of it. So was your job at CPRC your first job, or had you worked other places before?
Oh, no, I've had multiple other jobs before that.
What kind of jobs have you had, or where have you worked before?
Oh, teaching.
Okay, so do you care if I make like a quick list of like the jobs that you've had? Okay, so we have like the substance abuse program now. I'm gonna
Right,
make a list and go backwards. Substance abuse job. Before that, CPRC, is that what you said?
right, mental health, yeah.
Which was mental health. That's gonna come before substance abuse job on my list.
Yep, and then I was a teacher.
Teacher.
Yep,
Okay.
and prior to that, I substitute taught, so there was a lot of time in the classroom because that schedule was flexible enough. It worked well with family life.
Okay. Anything else before that?
No, not really.
Okay, so we have 4 career level jobs that you've held throughout your professional career. Substitute teaching,
Right.
then you were a teacher, then you did the mental health side at CPOC, and now you've transferred to the substance abuse side of the agency. So when you started working as a substitute teacher for the first time, how did you feel about that job?
Actually, I liked it, honestly, getting to work with the kids you know, and got along very well with that.
Would you say that you were completely competent, not competent, I can't speak today, I'm sorry. Would you say that you were completely confident when you started that job about your ability to be a substitute teacher?
I had some confidence in it, yes,
Okay.
just simply because I mean, I had kids and it was working with kids, so I mean, it wasn't 100% new.
Okay. Do you recall or remember feeling like any type of anxiety or nervousness at that job, like when you were just starting out?
Maybe going to a new school or something, but it was more just nervous because I didn't know it. I mean, I wasn't nervous about the job itself. It's just like the people and, the different classrooms and stuff.
Right. So what I'm hearing is that you were nervous about being in an environment that you were unfamiliar with.
Right.
Okay, and would you say that currently with this job that you just transferred to, that it's a new environment that you're not familiar with?
That it's what, I'm sorry.
I'm sorry, that it also is perhaps a new environment that you're not familiar with.
Yeah, I'm gonna say because I knew very little about any of that. I'm gonna say it's probably, yeah, very, very new, very unfamiliar.
Okay, so how long were you a substitute teacher? Do you recall?
Oh my gosh, probably 10 years off and on, different times.
That's quite a long period of time.
Right. Yeah. I'm gonna say the benefit of that was with my kids being in school, I knew most everybody I worked with worked for, you know, and at any of the schools, while, they were new, I usually knew one or two people at most of the schools that I went to.
Would you say, how do you think that your your comfort level, your confidence level developed and changed like the longer that you worked as a substitute teacher?
Well, dramatically, because I went from substitute teaching to being a teacher. So obviously, I felt confident in what I was doing.
So as you gained more experience, you felt more comfortable, and you gained more confidence, and then eventually kind of transitioned into like a full-time teaching
Right.
environment. Is that what I'm hearing?
Yes.
Okay. And I think the word you used was dramatically changed.
Oh,
I
yeah.
I like that word. What about when you started your mental health job through CPRC? How long ago did you start there?
That was actually 3 years ago, almost exactly.
Um, how did you feel when you first started that job?
A nervous wreck. It's kind of similar to where I'm at now. I didn't know anything.
You didn't know anything. Would you say that you were anxious?
Um, yeah, anxious but excited, yes.
Anxious, excited. How would you describe your confidence level when you started at CPRC?
Um, I'm fairly confident. It was new, but for some reason, the comfort level between starting there and this is, I don't know, is different. I can't explain why, but I felt more confident in starting that. I was more nervous about not being able to remember people's names than I was about doing the job.
Okay. So the confidence level or the comfort level is perhaps not similar to the current situation that you're in, but your words were, I was a nervous wreck, I was anxious,
Right.
that type of stuff. So in regards to the anxiety and the nervousness, how did that change over the 3 years that you were employed?
Oh, it diminished quickly in that job. I was going to say, I felt, it did not take me long to feel comfortable in what I was doing there.
So these are good. You're giving me good material. You're doing a great job. You know, during your years as a substitute teacher, your confidence, your comfort, your nervousness, your anxiety dramatically changed as you gain more experience, and
Right.
your nervousness and your anxiety, from what I'm hearing, diminished quickly as you gain more experience at CPRC. So,
Right.
so two jobs that you entered into with some amount of nervousness, anxiety, lack of confidence, just not ideal comfort because it was a new environment. Um, did you ever find yourself in a situation starting out as a teacher, starting out at CPRC, where um, you had supervisors or management staff or coworkers who were unhappy with you or criticized you because you weren't qualified or you didn't know what you were doing, or that they expected you to know more than what you knew at the time?
No, not at all.
No, so you haven't had like any negative
No.
experiences or didn't get any negative feedback from. Okay.
No.
So now let's move forward to considering your work as a substitute teacher and your work as, a full-time staff teacher, and then your work at CPRC, um, where you've identified a lot of the same initial feelings at those jobs,
Right.
as you're feeling right now. Um, and you've also been able to identify that, hey, those feelings changed actually like substantially, dramatically, quickly, as you worked, as you got more experience, as you became more comfortable in your environment. So thinking about that, thinking about your past experiences at your prior jobs, does that change your thoughts at all? Or how does that make you feel at, as you sit here right now and kind of think about how this new job might progress and how things might go here?
Well, it's been positive. I think probably the biggest difference between the others previously and now is it's more than just a job. It's not just the job. My practicum is tied to it also. And I think
Right.
that maybe ratchets up the stress level a little bit. So whereas before, I've always kind of had I was looking for a job when I got that one kind of mindset, it's like, whatever. There's a lot more riding on this one. So I want, it's more important than ever to me that I do a good job and, can continue my work.
And I don't think I think that makes sense. Because as you get, um, further into your career in this, there is, you've obviously gone through graduate school for a reason. You have career goals, and, completing your practicums is a big part of
Right.
obtaining your MSW, and so it is important. But it sounds like you have, you've identified some comparable um, situations in the past when you have been able to overcome
Right.
thoughts of nervousness and anxiety at a new job. So do you think it's probable that you can overcome those thoughts and those concerns at your new position?
Um, I think so. I think another component of it is dealing with individuals with substance use and abuse,
Right?
you do a lot of talking with them. I've never personally had issues with that, so I'm also another layer level of nervousness, anxiousness, I guess, is the fact of, why would they believe why would they be willing to work with me? I mean, I hear a lot of them, well, you don't know nothing about it. You've never, what have you had problems with, and you don't understand. So being able to establish rapport and work with these individuals, even though I've not had a substance abuse problem myself, and convincing them that, I'm still able to help them.
Right. So basically, like establishing that credibility, maybe like with
Right,
your client population, that this, I'm
right,
capable and I'm confident um, of doing this. So
right. And if I
and
have
I
trouble with that, it's, another reason. It feels like another reason, gosh, it's just something else the supervisors are looking at, of how, can I engage them? Do I not? Just kind of another area for them to look at, I guess.
I know, like we talked about briefly earlier, that you've kind of just been at the new position for a week now, and so I obviously don't know what exactly that week has entailed, but like how would you, or how do you feel about um, like your manager or your supervisor, or I guess what I'm looking for is have you had experiences where that's caused you to believe that the supervisor is going to be like overly critical of what you're doing and how you're doing it, or what that relationship look like right now?
As of right now, probably one of the best work relationships I've had. I mean, they're,
Cool.
yeah, it's, and that in itself, which sounds really funny, but it's kind of scary too, because they're, very helpful, very positive, it's almost too good to be true. It's like, I feel like I'm in a spot where it's like, I could really like this position and really like the job, but I'm kind of afraid to. Because,
Right.
I get along well with them. I like the people I work with. It's like I get up and in the 5-6 days that I've been going, I'm happy to go to work and meet with the people and, love learning from them. But I'm just afraid that I'm not living up to the quality caliber of what they've got there now.
Yeah, okay.
And that's worrisome because I like it so well, I think, or do right now anyway.
So what is your relationship with your supervisor like? What does that relationship entail? Like, it is your supervisor somebody that you see every day? Is she just there a couple times a week? What's that look like?
Every day, I'm going to say very helpful. If I need anything, I can email, call, text, walk down to the office, very accessible.
Okay, so do you have like any formal um, like opportunity to seek feedback, or do you meet with your supervisor like on a weekly basis for staffings or anything like that, or how would you elicit feedback?
I believe I'll be meeting with them weekly. I don't know. I mean, literally just been there a week. So, and with this position, I had to send off for some certain qualifications. So I really can't even get into learning or doing as much of my job as I need to right now because we're waiting on some of that. So I've been doing kind of some computer training, been doing shadowing, just different things like that. I'm literally just starting to see some of the processes with the clients, kind of beginning to, like, here's what you're going to be doing, here's the things you're going to be doing. So it's
So right now you're kind of shadowing and observing others.
Right.
Because am I understanding right that you're not, like, you maybe not, I don't even know if trained is the right word, but like you don't even, or haven't had like all the learning or the
Right.
trainings that you need to begin, like, obviously, because each job comes with its own, you have to be trained and ready to start. So you're in the training process, right?
Right.
So
It's kind of overwhelming because I've been seeing bits and pieces here and there, and it's, I've never followed one person from intake, through the entire process. It's like I'm fireworks popcorn almost. It's like, I get a piece here, get a piece there.
and you believe that you're going to be meeting with your supervisor at least some in some fashion on a regular basis. And
Right.
the words that you kind of used earlier to describe him or her was positive, helpful.
Mm-hmm.
If you need to go talk to them, you can talk to them. And so um, so right now you're in a stage where you're not independently working with clients, and you're not responsible for doing that type of stuff. Are you being trained by your supervisor? Are you shadowing other like peers in the office, or who's kind of doing your training?
Right. Supervisor's doing a fair charge. I'm also shadowing training with kind of somebody else that's doing the same job that I'm going to be doing. So I'm kind of watching that process. And there's some things in the job that I won't be able to do until I get my LMSW. So that'll be, like in May. So it's like I'm learning some things that I'll be doing right now, and then I'm learning some that are like in the future. So it gets a little bit confusing of, okay, that I'll be able to do now, that I won't be able to do now. So, but it's important to see how it's done for the whole process, if that makes any sense at
Oh,
all.
absolutely. You're kind of learning the whole process right now, but you may not necessarily be participating in the full process for a few months.
Right.
So I think what I heard you say is that, yeah, your supervisor's doing, a big part of your training and your supervision, but there's also at least one other person maybe in the office who you're kind of shadowing and observing and learning from right now.
Right.
So is that individual a resource for you? Is that person somebody that you can go to if you have questions or if you need feedback about something?
Oh, very much. Everybody there's been very, very helpful. I think the biggest struggle I have is in my own mind with it. They're all more than happy. I think I'm way harder on myself than what they are. I'm sure half of the things I've thought they would laugh at me if I were to tell them, but of course I'm not going to.
So, and it makes me happy to hear that you have so far such positive people that you're working with. You've been very positive as far as they're all helpful. They're more than happy to help me. It's kind of like my own thoughts that are getting in the way. So, and it sounds like they're approachable. You have the opportunity to talk to them if you need to.
Right.
So, but again, like you said, it's my thoughts. I'm being too hard on myself. It's me. It's not like necessarily anything that they're doing. So what is there anything that you could think of that you could do to help um, ease those concerns and to kind of diminish those critical thoughts that you're having about yourself?
Hmm.
Like
You
even
know,
if it's, anything, even if it's just like something you can do at work.
well, probably, I mean, remind myself that, like, because since I transferred, I had a week off in there. So, I mean, technically I've been at the job for 2 weeks or better, but this is actual like day 6 there since I had the time off because of the transfer. Probably just thinking, that I've only been there 6 days,
Okay.
you know.
Do you mind to grab a piece of paper and a pen for me so we can jot some of this stuff down? I would like you to keep track of it as you kind of identify some things that might be helpful. So
Okay.
you said, remind myself, I've only been here for 6 days.
Yeah.
So what do you want that reminder to say? What is important about knowing that you've only been there for 6 days?
Um, that I'm not going to know everything there is to know in 6 days.
Absolutely. Do you think that if you wrote something along the lines of, I've only been at my job for 6 days and I am not reasonably expected to know everything about everything
Right.
at this point in time.
I
Do you think
can't
that that would be,
possibly.
and even if adding, as I gain experience, I will gain, knowledge.
Yeah, I can't possibly know everything right off the bat.
Right. So can you jot that down? You might have
Sure.
jot that down. I've only been here for 6 days and I can't possibly be expected to know everything from the get-go. Whatever reminder is beneficial for you. Whatever makes you think, oh yeah, Tracy, like I'm not expected to know all this.
Right.
So, did you get your reminder jotted down?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. So, what else, or is there anything else that you can think of that you could do to help ease your concerns and diminish some of those self-critical thoughts when you're at work?
Um, I guess reminding myself, or, that knowing my coworkers are willing to help, or, are willing to answer questions or help,
That's
because
a that is a wonderful idea. Instead
yeah,
of jotting down something along the lines of, so like, uh, yes, your coworkers are great helps. So in what scenario would you need to utilize them as help?
any place that I had any questions, I guess. I mean,
Great.
I don't know.
So would it be okay for you to jot down something like, I need to, I just need to remember that if I have a question or if I need feedback, I have a supervisor or a coworker who I'm able to go to
Right.
for support. So
Yeah.
you tell me what do you want to write down?
Um, I get, that I guess that it's okay to ask questions because, they're very helpful.
It's okay to ask questions, and I have multiple people I can go to if I do have questions.
Right.
Okay, that's a great reminder. I'm glad you came up with that one.
Okay.
Is there anything else that you can think of that might be helpful to you?
Just, I mean, I've learned new jobs before and not died doing it. So,
Write that down. That's wonderful. I have learned new jobs before and I've not died doing it. I love that. So what does that tell you? You've done it before, so what?
I'm probably going to be able to do it again.
Are you going to be able to do it again? That's absolutely right.
Okay.
So now that we have, is there anything else you want to write down?
That covers most of them.
Awesome. So now that we have these reminders written down, what do you want to do with these reminders? Because writing them down is the first piece of it. So what are we going to do with them to make sure that they're effective?
I can maybe put them at my desk or someplace that I'll look at them.
Okay. Someplace where you can see them.
Right.
Might trigger you to be like, oh yeah, hey. So, and I would assume that, yeah, desk would be a good place. Somewhere where you know you're going to be, somewhere where you're typically at when you're experiencing those self-care.
Right.
So you think desk would be a good option?
That, or I guess in my car, because I'm not at my desk a lot, like during the day, but it'd be, a way to start it. Or I could put one in the car, I guess, and because there's 3 different ones, so I could maybe put them in different spots.
Right, yeah. Whatever you think is helpful. If you want to put, post the different ones in different locations, or if you want to make one list that has all 3 on it and just make 2 copies of the list and post one on your desk and post one on your car.
Yeah.
So that you have it no matter what kind of situation you're in. Whatever do you think would be most beneficial to you and whatever's going to help you the most? Because I think what I would like to see, if you're okay with it, is between now and when we meet again is I want you to post those reminders. I want you to keep your list and I want you to post those reminders wherever you feel is appropriate. If you want to put it on your desk, that's fine. If you want to put it in your car, that's fine. If you want to put it in both locations, that's fine. But over the next week, I want you to post those, and I want you to try to keep track. It may be helpful if you jot down, if you have a notebook or something where you can kind of jot down, at work, on lunch, or at the end of the day when you're done. Like, when, if you use that reminder, if you felt yourself triggered to use that reminder, and then how that reminder impacted your thoughts and your feelings, and how that affected kind of how you coped with those feelings at work. Do you think that that's something that you could do?
Yeah, I could try it.
Okay. How, is there any reason that you could think of that you wouldn't be able to do that?
I don't think so.
Okay, so how likely, like on a scale of 1 to 10, 1's like, no, if I'm not doing it at all, and 10's like, oh yeah, I'm gonna do it every day. How likely do you think you are to post those reminders and to kind of at least in some way kind of keep track of how effective they were for you?
Well, I'll definitely post the reminders. It just, and I'll try my best to write down how I'm reacting to them. And say, unless, I get busy or something. Because
can you give me a number that reflects try my best?
Like a 7.
Okay, so I'm good with 7. All right, so we kind of talked about some feelings that you're having at work: nervousness, anxiousness, lack of confidence. We've kind of talked about how those feelings are affecting your thoughts and how those thoughts again are impacting your feelings, and then what our behaviors look like, or what your behaviors look like in response to those thoughts and feelings. And you've identified 3 very great reminders that you can provide to yourself to kind of try to modify those thoughts and think about things in a different way so that you're not being so critical of yourself. And your homework for the next week is going to be to post those reminders and try to keep track of how using those reminders impacts, how you do at work. Is that an accurate summary, or did I miss something? Can you think of anything I missed?
No, I think that sounds about right.
And are you comfortable with doing that, or is that something you're okay with?
Yeah, that would work.
Okay. Is there anything else that you think we should touch on or work on today?
No, I think that, just getting through that and getting over the hurdle of being worried I'm not doing things well enough would be plenty.
Okay. Do you have any questions or concerns about anything that we talked about during the session today, or anything that you want to see done differently next time?
No, I mean, it makes sense what you said. I mean, none of the other new jobs that I've had have killed me or hurt me. So I'm, should be reasonable to believe that I'll be able to get through this just fine.
Okay. Okay. How about if we plan to meet next week? We normally meet on Wednesday, so is next Wednesday okay with you?
Yeah, that's fine.
Okay, so we will meet next Wednesday. You'll be prepared to kind of talk about how things go between now and then. Is that all right?
Yeah, sounds good.
All right. Well, thank you so much, Tracy, and I'll see you next week, okay?
Thanks. Bye.
Bye.